Hello, my wonderful third graders. We're still talking about European exploration of North America, and this is lesson 6, Spanish settlements. Some vocabulary you'll hear throughout the read aloud. Achievements are special accomplishments that come from great effort or hard work. Established means started something that became known and accepted. Extinguish means to cause the end of something, to put out a fire. Investment, money used to earn more money. Mr. Henderson made a lot of money from his investment in the stock market. Mainland is a large area of land, not including islands, that makes up the main part of a country or region. Missions are communities set up to convert groups of people from one religion to another. Or they could be communities set up by religious groups to help others. They're just communities set up by religious groups. So far we've learned about Christopher Columbus's voyage, which you can see the brown line here in his Hispaniola. We learn about Juan Ponce de Leon and the purple dots right here. We've learned about Hernando de Soto, which is the yellow dots, and Francisco Vasquez de Coronado, which he came up here from Mexico to the Arizona area, New Mexico area, right here. Okay, they were all searching for gold and wealth and to become famous. Today you'll be hearing about a change in the way that the explorers viewed North America. The early European explorers were initially looking for a shorter and easier route to Asia. Later they were interested in exploring the land for riches, but they intended to return to their home countries. In today's Read Aloud, you will hear how the explorers changed from these early phases to one in which they began to establish settlements. Excuse me. This change in motivation occurred because of changes taking place in Europe. Europe was overcrowded and lacking resources. Settling in the New World was a way to gain access to more space and new resources. In this read aloud, you're going to hear the word settlement. A settlement is a place where people have set up a community that they intend to be permanent. In today's Read Aloud, you will be hearing about settlements that were established in North America by the Spanish explorers. Earlier this year, in the Native American region and cultures domain, you heard about Native American tribes that had established settlements in various regions throughout North America. In today's Read Aloud, you will hear about Spanish settlements in North America. The expeditions of De Soto and Coronado indicated that the great age of the conquistadors was coming to an end. Both men had set out hoping to find fabulous riches and outdo the achievements of Cortez and Pizarro. Both the expeditions of De Soto and Coronado ended unsuccessfully. Both found little gold. De Soto didn't even make it home. Coronado did, but he came home beaten down and demoralized, having lost a large investment he had made in the expedition to find wealth. The Spaniards decided that there was no gold to be found in the parts of the North American mainland De Soto and Coronado had explored. They decided to focus most of their attention on the colonies they had established farther south, in the Caribbean, Mexico, and South America. However, they did not forget about the rest of North America entirely. They established a few forts to protect their colonies and ships, and they sent some missionaries to convert the Native Americans to Christianity. So, an investment is the use of money to make more money. Missionaries are people who go to a place, often a foreign country, to do religious work. In the 1560s, the French had begun exploring the eastern coast of Florida. They set up a fort named Fort Caroline. Some men from the fort became pirates. They started attacking Spanish ships sailing in the Caribbean. The Spanish decided they needed to build their own fort along the coast of Florida for several reasons. The French had a settlement in the area, and the Spanish did not want competition in this part of North America from another country. Mostly, though, the Spanish wanted to establish a fort to protect their ships. They sent a man by the name of Pedro Menendez de Aviles to set up a fort. He arrived in August of 1565 and found a safe harbor where a river flowed into the Atlantic Ocean. His men set up a fort, which they named St. Augustine after a Christian saint. Soon after, the Spanish decided to attack the French fort, catching the French off guard and defeating them. The French fort, Fort Caroline, was renamed San Mateo after the Spanish had captured it. St. Augustine, Florida, was established in 1565, 20 years before the English settlement on Roanoke Island, and 42 years before the settlement at Jamestown. There have been people living there ever since. In fact, St. Augustine is the oldest continuously inhabited European settlement in the continental United States. St. Augustine is also where Miss Hill is going on vacation for spring break. I will take pictures and we will see what it looks like. Alright, so you can see an image of, you can see St. Augustine on the map here in Florida. And you can see a modern day photograph of forts that are still there today. The Spanish also sent missionaries who worked to convert the native people to Christianity. The missionaries set up communities called missions. Pedro Menendez was an important influence in having missionaries brought to North America. As the first Spanish colonial governor in Florida, Menendez insisted that any ships coming from Spain must include a priest who could serve as a missionary. The Spanish set up a number of missions in the 1570s in Florida and on the islands off the coast of what is today the state of Georgia. Spanish missionaries were also established in Mexico near the border of what we now know as the United States. So you heard missionaries and mission. How are these words related to each other? Missionaries are the people, right? And the mission is the place where they lived and they had a mission. Here's a picture of what it would look like, the mission. A few decades later, in the 1590s, the Spanish began establishing missions in the Southwest in what we now call the states of New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas. In the 1700s, the Spanish built a string of missions along the Pacific coast of California. The Spanish did this not only to convert the natives to Christianity, but also to develop allies among the converted people in North America. Many American cities in the Southwest began as missions named after Christian saints. Some examples include San Diego, San Francisco, San Jose, and Santa Barbara in California, and San Antonio in Texas. Every mission was centered around a church. Churches were made either of stone masonry or adobe, clay bricks, depending on their location. Missionaries would often live in one building, and the converted Native Americans would live within the mission in their own houses, which were also made of stone or adobe. Most missions also included farms and orchards. The natives were taught to grow crops like corn, wheat, and barley using European farming techniques. Some natives were also taught crafts such as carpentry, woodworking, weaving, soap making, and candle making. Depending on the area, some missions also raised livestock, including cattle and sheep, on cattle ranches located just outside the mission. Most missions had bakeries, craft shops, and storerooms for the crops grown on the farmlands and orchards. Many missions also had tailors, carpenters, and blacksmiths. In the missions, the native peoples attended a school where they received instruction from priests who included religious teachings. They were taught about Christianity and the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. They learned to say Christian prayers. A typical day in a mission usually involved religion classes and religious services. Usually, adults and older siblings would work in the mission's farms and orchards, while young children were taught to read, write, and speak in Spanish, not their native language. Some missionaries and conquistadors shared some similarities, but also had differences. Most missionaries were not trying to conquer people and using force. Some were, however, trying to defeat the natives' way of life and promote Christianity and European ways of living. That meant some missionaries were trying to extinguish the natives' traditional religion, culture, and language. Some European missionaries thought removing their way of life would be helpful to the native peoples. Similar to conquistadors, some of the missionaries made slaves of the natives and put them to work on the farms. Many local native populations also suffered the same fate as those who had first encountered Columbus. Many became infected and died of diseases to which many of the Spanish had become immune. As you heard earlier about the conquistadors, the actions of some of these missionaries did not follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, did they? It's probably not what Jesus would have wanted, not what Jesus would do. Some Native Americans accepted Christianity and lived in the local missions. Many others did not like being forced to adopt the new European way of life and the Christian religion. They wanted to keep their language, their religion, and their traditional ways of life. Eventually, some Native people rebelled against the missions in their areas. In 1680, a Native American from the Tiwawe Pueblo tribe named Pope successfully led a rebellion that evicted the Spanish from their pueblos. It means they kicked them out, temporarily restoring their traditional way of life. Once they regained control of their pueblos, they extinguished the Spanish culture and Christian religion, restoring their native customs. After about a decade after Pope's death, however, the Spanish returned and reconquered the land. When the United States expanded to the south and west, it took over Spanish territory in Florida in the southwest. Most of the Spanish missions were abandoned when Spanish lands came under control of the government of the United States, but a few of them still operate today, and many can still be visited. If you live in the southwest or can travel there, you can visit a historic mission yourself. What city in the southeastern North America was established by the Spanish as a fort and is the oldest continuously inhabited European settlement in the continental United States? And is also where Miss Hill is going on spring break. St. Augustine, Florida. You can see where it is on this map right here. And I will probably go on some tours of different forts and things, and I will take lots of pictures and show you guys. What events caused the Spanish Age of Conquistador to come to an end in North America? The failure to find gold on the North American mainland despite large investments in the expedition. There was no gold. After De Soto's and Coronado's failures, the Spanish turned most of their attention to the Caribbean, Mexico, and South America, but they did not forget the mainland of North America. Why did the Spanish want to establish forts in the southeastern part of North America? To keep the French settlers from competing with them in this part of the world and protect their ships in the Atlantic Ocean. After the Spanish established missions in Florida, to what other areas of North America did the missions spread? The current states of New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, and California. How did Native Americans react to the attempt by the Spanish to convert them to Christianity? Some accepted Christianity and lived in the local missions, whereas others rebelled against the missions in their areas. Compare and contrast the missionaries and conquistadors. In other words, what are some similarities and differences between them? Both were Spanish, both explored new territories, both interacted with the Native Americans. Conquistadors and some missionaries were trying to defeat the natives' way of life and extinguish their traditional religion, culture, and language. The conquistadors were trying to conquer the Native Americans by force, whereas some missionaries were trying to change their way of life by promoting Christianity and European ways of life. Why do you think the Spanish conquistadors gave up on the idea of finding great quantities of gold in North America? Try to remember your answers to this question for the wrap up later this afternoon. Our word for today is achievement. Achievements. In the read aloud you heard, both men had set out hoping to find fabulous riches and outdo the achievements of Cortez and Pizarro. Say the words achievements. Say the word achievements. Achievements are special accomplishments that come from great effort or hard work, such as Cortez's conquering the Aztec Empire, or Pizarro's conquering the Inca Empire, or Popeye helping the Native Americans keep their way of life for a time. Some of Julius Caesar's greatest achievements came as a soldier in ancient Rome when he protected Rome from invading armies. Have you ever learned about the achievements of a famous person? Can you think of some of your own achievements? We're going to be talking about our achievements at our afternoon wrap-up today. Do not forget to do your expedition log about Spanish missions. That looks like this. What is a mission and why did the Spanish want to start missions in North America? A mission was a settlement where missionaries went to teach Christianity to the Native Americans. The Spanish wanted the Native Americans to be more like them. In what areas of North America did the Spanish start missions? Florida, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas area. Describe what the missions looked like, what activities took place at the missions, and how different Native Americans reacted to what the missionaries tried to do. Depended on where they were, right? You can do that question on your own. All right, good job, third graders.